So, as you can see, Your Honor, I have just proven that my opponent needs to go to therapy for his obvious addiction and... Ah! It burns! Welcome back to Ace Attorney Month, my friends. Manga Common here, we're doing another top 5 list. So this week we'll be looking at the opposition of the Ace Attorney, the Prosecutors. Whether they be scumbags, masters of logical defiance, or even those who happen to be coffee maniacs, the Prosecutors are some of the most intriguing characters, and arguably being the characters you interact most with in the games. Now we'll be looking at the top 5 of them, at least in my opinion. Also, at the time of making this video script and recording, I haven't played Ace Attorney 6 yet, so I won't be adding the Prosecutor in that. Also, the Prosecutor must have at least been behind the Prosecutor's desk at least once to qualify for this list. We'll be looking at how memorable the Prosecutor is, how logical they are, and how they put their smarts on their cases. Court's in session! So let's talk about this guy and... What the... Fine, you can be on the list! Franziska von Garma. Not gonna lie on this, he's actually an interesting character who adds a lot of humor to the courtroom. Whether it be she be whipping the judge, Phoenix, Gumshoe, or whatever poor soul happens to be on the witness stand. We first meet Franziska in the second game, right after Maya gets arrested. Again, for murder. And she's attempting to get Maya convicted. Granted, and spoilers for a game over 10 years old, she fails! And she happens to be a very graceful loser. And my ability of sarcasm has been shot. Franziska certainly is a fickle character in my opinion. She's the definition of a tsundere, and if you've been on my channel for a while, then you know my opinion of them. And I do admit I am a fan of Franziska's design. It's rather eye-catching with the calm and frills, the cool coloring she has with her design, and of course... We also get a peek at her when she was younger in Ace Attorney Investigations, and she's pretty much the same personality-wise, if not a bit more stubborn. Yet with that long hair, I have to admit she's rather cute. So sorry, you're not cute! Next one, next one! Achtung, baby! Apollo Justice is probably one of the more divisive titles of the series, with some of the less than flattering complaints that I've seen floating around. Granted, I really enjoy the game. I find it to be one of the more respectable titles in the series, and one of the reasons why would be because of clavergaven, the main prosecutor of the game. Known as the Rockstar Prosecutor, Clavier is an odd prosecutor in the bunch. We meet him in the second case of Apollo Justice game, and according to the text, he has a bunch of rabid fans cheering for him. At a crime scene. Yeah, that's not a little bit creepy. But enough about that. Why do I think Claver is a good prosecutor? Well, let's start with his design. One of my favorite colors is light purple, and with the black he stands out especially with his blonde hair. Not to mention I dig the chain necklace he has around his neck. Stylish! Let's talk about his personality. Unlike a lot of the prosecutors, Clavier starts off being honest and friendly. And at the same time he keeps his rock star persona in the courtroom, which can lead to some pretty entertaining reactions from Apollo. And yet Claver takes both his professions very seriously. And unlike a lot of prosecutors you first meet, he's not fully in it for the guilty verdict. He's more interested in acquiring the truth and the right verdict in court. I found it to be very respectable, and I feel like it was a waste that he didn't get a lot of love in Dual Destinies. It would have been really awesome to face him in an actual court. Also, I can't not bring this up. At times in court, when his theme song Guilty Love is playing, people will notice this. Damn it, Claver, stop breaking the fourth wall with your awesomeness. Yeah, you can keep objecting, but that won't change the fact that Edgeworth is at number 3. What can I say about the Prosecutor from Hell? He's a fan favorite, and I have to admit, I have to agree. Seeing his development in the first trilogy, questioning his morals from being raised to be a prosecutor, to becoming a defendant from his mentor's actions, and turning into a prosecutor who searches for the truth. He's also the only prosecutor to get a spin-off from the series, which we see Edgeworth's ideology and morals questioned and put to the test. Edgeworth could have easily had an entire video dedicated to his past and his character development, and if I didn't want to make this video quick, I'd talk more in depth about him, but here's the cliff notes. The reason why Edgeworth is on the list is because he became a much more reputable person, all because of Phoenix Wright and how Wright wanted to bring his friend back to the light. And even then, we see Edgeworth is still learning, from his new allies, from his new experiences, and even questioning the law and his morals in order to develop himself and succeed as a prosecutor. I like Edgeworth's development and his character, I just happen to like the next two prosecutors more. Not again! At least it's not decaf. Number 2 is Goto. And yes, people, I finally managed to say his name right. I hope. But yeah, Goto is the second best prosecutor in my book. Do I really need to explain why? So, let's talk about Goto. Let's start off with his introduction. He has never lost a single case, because he never prosecuted before. That's practically a little bit of satire on the previous major prosecutors that we faced in the previous games, poking fun at the idea how previous prosecutors were intimidating simply because of their perfect records. This was actually a funny moment, and during the first case we had with Goto, it was also during that case that we saw how dangerous he is. As I stated in my previous top list, Goto actually managed to use an innocent verdict to get your client accused of a much more serious crime. There's also the fact that Goto is quite a bit of a unique enigma. He has this underlying hatred for Phoenix, and we learn about his connection to Phoenix in the last trial of the main game trilogy. Not gonna spoil it for you since you guys should really play the games yourself to enjoy, but yeah, it's really worth it. Then there's his design, which has a bit of flair and uniqueness to it. You've got a regular everyday attire, no cravats, no excessive jewelry, something you'd actually see a lawyer wear. Oh, right, the mask and hair. Well, that certainly makes for a good conversation starter and makes him very unique and stand out for the other prosecutors. There's also his theme song, Fragrance of Dark Coffee, which he even has in his ringtone. Overall, Goto is a very memorable character, has a unique design, and has one of the funniest ways to stop Phoenix from talking.
Objection!
I feel your pain, Phoenix. I feel your pain. But alas, with that, Goto is number 2 on my top prosecutors. So who's number 1? Come on, it should have been obvious. I'm dressed up like the guy. Simon Blackwell, the twisted samurai and a convict of a prosecutor. Granted, something like that wouldn't fly in our legal world, but hey, that's the point. This is a video game world. I think it's a given that I like his design. The black and white with hints of traditional Japanese clothing with the surcoat that he wears actually is a very unique and stands out from the other prosecutors. Heck, I often cosplay as him too. Let's also throw in his personality. Oftentimes, Simon has shown to be rather ruthless in the courtroom, and he's not above using...
Objection!
Is that an air slash or something? Seriously, he's able to cut feathers and even Phoenix's hair at some points. But anyway, back to his personality. He's not above assaulting those in the court. He doesn't care for people wasting his time and hates it, but he seems to have a bit of sense of humor, often making a mockery of defense or even the judge. Speaking of the judge, we're introduced to Simon's partner in crime, Taka the Hawk. Real original name there, guys. Taka's introduction... Well, that's just humorous, something we haven't seen before. The look on the judge's face is just priceless. Back to Blackwell, let's talk about the role he has in Dual Destinies. Throughout the game, we're given little snippets of Blackwell's past and his connection to Athena, as to why he's also in prison. His connection to the story and main character is one of the major drives of Dual Destinies, and at least in my opinion, is very interesting to look into. I find Simon Blackwell to be one of the more interesting prosecutors in this franchise, as well as my favorite one of all time. But what are your guys' thoughts? Let me know down in the comments below and what you think. I'm Manga Comment.